You probably don't know it yet, but right now, you're living in the best time period known to man. Modern medicine has eradicated diseases that have plagued humanity, and new technologies means we could have smartphones, smart cars, smart TVs, smart watches, smart homes, and smart everything. But despite all of these great things, there is one thing that's been lagging behind, and that's mental health. Matt Pendronzio, who works at Mashable, writes, Millennials reported the highest rates of depression. Approximately 1 in 5 millennials who sought out employee assistance or work-at-life advice. And this doesn't even talk about the people who do have problems, but don't have the confidence to seek out help. It also doesn't even help that there's this negative stigma against mental health, because it implies that there is something wrong with you, or that you're broken. But why is this issue even happening? Well, try to put yourself in their shoes. Imagine that you just graduated college. You have your bachelor's degree in computer science, and you're ready to head into the workforce. Only problem is, all the job listings you want require 4 years or more experience, and those college loans are going to pay for themselves. So after about 6 months of job searching, you finally find something, but the pay isn't that good, and the work you do isn't that meaningful. However, you still want to go through with it so you can save up for that house you've always wanted. But it turns out you don't have the credentials to support owning a house, and all you can afford is, well, this. You're chained down by things that you thought you can overcome, and now you're in a terrible dark place. That, my fellow viewers, is what some millennials have to face. The story I have just told is just one of many examples. His story doesn't even describe the people who are still struggling in college, or the people who have chosen to instantly go into the workforce. Even though there is a minority of millennials who feel this way, this doesn't mean we should ignore them. So, how do we deal with this sense of hopelessness? Before I get to answer that question, I want to shed light to a group that no one really thinks about, and may have a similar sense of hopelessness some millennials have. And that group, my friends, is the Native American youth. According to the Washington Post, a toxic collection of pathologies, poverty, unemployment, domestic violence, sexual assault, alcoholism, and drug addiction has seeped into the lives of young people among the nation's 566 tribes. Unfortunately, these horrible obstacles Native American kids have to go through are only contributing factors for only one thing: suicide. To get an image of how bad it is, about 40% of those who die by suicide are between the ages of 15 and 24. That's pretty insane. Obviously, mental health is a serious issue in reservation life, and it isn't treated as seriously. For example, let me tell you the tragic story of 14-year-old Native American girl, Avis Littlewin. Avis was a person that needed mental health help, but wasn't able to seek out for it. And because of that, she hanged herself after staying in bed for about 90 days. She laid in bed all that time, and nobody, not even her school, missed her. Eventually, she got out of bed and killed herself. Avis Littlewin died of suicide because mental health treatment wasn't available on that reservation. This sad, awful, terrible story represents the seriousness of the mental health issue, something both the Native American youth and millennials face. Going back to the original question, how can we treat this general sense of hopelessness? Well, one way that can help anyone deal with the struggles of life is the use of something called trickster humor. The idea of trickster humor essentially comes from the Native American culture. The trickster is the type of person who uses comedy to heal others, whether they are troubled by their own past or their current situation. In my interpretation, I feel like trickster humor is the type of attitude that looks at something that is bad and terrible and turns that into something positive. Let me use myself as an example. I'm a freshman college student who goes to UC Irvine, and recently I completely bombed my digital electronics final, which means that I'm going to have to retake it next year. I know it doesn't sound that big of a deal, but personally for me, this was devastating. Never in my life have I failed that bad enough to retake a class. I initially felt pretty down and just wanted to give up on everything. Now with the use of trickster humor, I changed my perspective on it. Instead of stressing out and beating myself up, I treated the situation comically. The next day, I talked about that final with some friends, turned my own suffering into something funny and humorous, and then went on with my day. Now, I'm not saying I didn't take the final seriously. I honestly did. But the actual situation itself is serious and is just filled with negativity. So why do I need to add more fuel to the fire? Using this form of trickster humor helped me with the pain of failing a class. It comforted me even though it wasn't appropriate for me to be comfortable. So why can't others use this form of trickster humor? You can use this humor for many things like dealing with financial stress and the loss of a loved one. I want to emphasize how trickster humor has the power to turn something really bad to something really good. So I hope you, the viewer, at least learned something in this video. The purpose of this video was to show how mental health is a serious issue in both millennials and the Native American youth, and to show how trickster humor can be a benefit to one's life. I know that trickster humor isn't going to be like this big key that can solve the mental health problem, but it's just a simple way of just dealing with life struggles. To anyone that needs it, I hope what I've talked about today helps you in any way.